So I guess I just accidentally start recording. All right, that's fine. So it is currently 7:30 in the morning, and I wanted to discuss a very serious matter, and it's about the disenfranchise of men and how we are slowly pushing them out of the society we are creating now. And I wanted to talk about I believe, the consequences and negative effects of doing that. First off, I wanted to mention I'm not very good at being very cohesive at times because it takes me a little while to get my point across, but just bear with me. I'm sure that you should get some points, some um, valid information with what I'm about to share. So, as of lately, I've come across a lot of useful information that pretty much tells me about how how things are going at the moment. And it's going quite terrible, in my opinion. I know you guys probably hear this all the time. The economy is getting worse, inflation, yada yada. But I suppose it's never enough to emphasize that, really, because we tend to forget how things are actually going on. And I'm not the type of person who wants to be negative and quite pessimistic, but I made my fair share of research, and you can look it up yourself. I'm not saying you should hear me out. I'm simply making observations here. But it's safe to say that men nowadays are getting pushed out of society, being on the sidelines, being considered second class citizens. I think that now more than ever, we are entering into a crisis as men, and I will get into the women, the woman's side of the argument later on, because I believe they are being affected as much as we are, but in a very different way. So let's start with work, labor. Labor statistics now say that the man workforce is decreasing gradually and consistently year after year. And that's on itself a irrefutable fact that we're simply not seeing a benefit to that. I'm trying to get myself into the shoes of the vast majority of men because I feel like my points are valid since I myself have been living through every single situation in the last, say, 10 years. And I feel like I'm the correct demographic to represent what's going on at the moment because I myself, as a now 26-year-old Gen Zer, can safely say that I've been through the lockdown, through the mass introduction of the AI revolution, as well as the changing political landscape of the 2020s. Um, it's been crazy. It's been interesting. Uh, our generation has seen all that, and we're progressively seeing the adverse negative effects of it. And the reason why we're just not choosing to work as much or at all as in the past is simply because the society no longer provides a moral and spiritual reason for us to stick around and provide for the society. You guys see it with the marriage. I apologize. Like I said, I'm not very good at communicating at times. The marriage rates have plummeted. The dating scene is a joke. It's a it's just horrible. I personally have had my fair share of really bad experiences, and everything just becomes very superficial. But I believe there's still hope for it. We are becoming more conscientious of the very transactional nature of that dating scene and relationships. I think love and overall has been degraded to a transactional relationship, and that's kind of its fault with because we are living in a very neo um, capitalistic society. I think it's called late stage capitalism. What we're living in at the moment. I could be wrong. I'm not a certified economist nor a philosopher of economy, but it's safe to say that we are entering in a very weird and interesting time when it comes to that specific form of government. Um, let's talk about how we view this as man. I hopefully you guys can understand me. I think that as things have changed over time, and slowly the purpose of marriage and finding a partner slowly gets degraded, and just the divorce rates go up in such a dramatic um, change. I believe here in the US, it's like almost 50% of all marriages fail, end up in divorce. And the women or partners uh, end up keeping half of all earnings. And also, the man has to take care of alimony and stuff like that. And another part, just stagnating wages and the slow degradation of benefits in a job kind of leads to a demoralizing effect in overall. What happens when you no longer have a secured family unit, and the job market is so it's a joke now that it just doesn't make sense to happen in the first place. You become so irreplaceable and dispensable for a company, and even if you're managed to stick around, uh, pensions are no longer a thing. That just doesn't exist anymore. It's I think it's a very few in between that they still have that. You're still lucky to find it on the government job and stuff like that, but in overall, it will be something of the past, I believe. And we have also the new um, the new thing that very soon Social Security might be something of the past as well. So you have all of this going on, and as a young man, you see this, and you just think to yourself, "Dang, is there really a place for me in this society? Is there truly a benefit?" Which is why there's a big rise of uh, the non-working movement. I'm not sure if there's a terminology. I'm sure there is. There is also the silent quitting or quiet quitting, which is a symptom of what I've what I just said of all of that. It's a causation and effect. I think that now more than ever, us as man, as young man, entering into this life, we are entering into a crisis, a spiritual and almost physical crises. We're under a lot of stress and pressure, and as the older generations leave their their plethora of mistakes and short-term benefit with long-term negative effects, we are just left with such a mangled mess of a society, and we just have to pick up after that. I think largely why the also the housing market is like that. I think through much of the world, I believe, or the West, let's put it like that. It's because of the selfish and often short-sighted mindset of our parents and grandparents. They simply they selectively and knowingly chose policies and uh, laws that only truly benefited them in the short term. And still now, boomers will be, by definition and fact, the richest demographic in the history of mankind. Look it up. It's a fact. You can look it up. It's common knowledge. The average boomer retiree, in my opinion, this is not a fact, but I believe that their savings and assets tend to range from 1 to 2 million, considering that their largest asset is their home. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the market back then to buy a house was extremely favorable, as well as job opportunities and benefits, uh, s- stock options, and the ability to invest. It was quite a miracle. It was a miracle back then. The richest generation ever to this point in mankind. But of course, the unfortunate thing is that they only thought about what they wanted now instead of what their children could have. And it's something our parents made a quite good share of that problem, I believe. It just trickled down, if that makes sense. First it was the boomers, then I believe it's Generation X. Yes, I think it's Generation X. And when things really hit rock bottom, I think that's when millennials and us Gen Zers really had to pick up the tab, so to speak, because money, it wasn't going around as much. So here we are to this point. And what do I say in my case as a man of this current generation who has to pick up um, the world and put it on its shoulders? I'm sure also the millennials, of course, they're still quite prevalent. I think they're the ones that are now in the mid stage of picking things up, but we're also in the beginning of picking the responsibility of this society. It's terrifying. I'm terrified. Um, I myself, I want to have a family. I want to have a house, a property. I want to have assets and a good pension and a very generous savings account. But I'll be quite realist. I'll be quite not pessimistic, but quite realistic about the situation. I know that I will not have all of that I just said, for the simple reason that statistically, my generation will be a lot poorer than the boomer generation, and perhaps other generations before us. So I will have to deal with that in my own way. I carry a certain sense of resentment because this society and overall chose to pretty much throw us under the bridge. And I'm a bit bitter of the fact that the boomers and overall chose this for us. So, what happens when a society um, chooses to completely sacrifice the lamb being us? Well, men, as young men, we see this and we're like, you know what? Screw that. I don't want it. You can keep it. I choose to opt out of this very crappy situation. And in a way, I want to do that too. I want to speak out in a way that this society can really truly understand. When there's still time for these older generations to make changes, and I think that is opting out. How can you stop a vicious system that proactively chooses to disenfranchise men and in its own way women as well? Well, you choose not to contribute. It's that simple. That is our vote. That's how we say enough is enough. We don't want this anymore. And I think in the near future, I will make very important changes in my life that will proactively help me out better in the future. Because there's still a lot of ways for us to have a good life. But for you to do that, you need to not follow the herd or the crowd or whatever, you know. You get what I'm saying. If the rich and powerful don't even follow their own rules, then why should you? Why should you? We no longer trust our governments or the people that are placed in power to rule over us. Our government chooses a lot of the time to completely, what's a good word, to completely, sure, I'll use this, to completely just sacrifices as disposable, as a disposable commodity. The growing gap between the rich and the poor is just, it's just gonna keep growing. And I'm very unsettled by this if I want to choose to have a family. It's difficult for me to trust the government that proactively, I know I use this word a lot, proactively, but they know that they're doing this, they know the effects, they know the negative outcome, and they still choose to do this. I mean, we're going into massive amounts of debt. Our politics are a joke. Just look at the current candidates. I mean, it's a joke. I neither consider myself a liberal or conservative, but I do like very certain aspects of it. But I think now it's ridiculous that we cannot have a civil discord and settling down something in the middle without breaking into a full-on fight. Why does it have to be it's either us or them? No, it should not be like that. That's how civil wars start. That's how the degradation and crumbling of a society starts. If you know about history, then you know what I'm talking about. I have a lot to say, and unfortunately, will mostly go on deaf ears, but I choose to have something different for myself. I choose to be selfish with my life. And I will look for the best interest for myself because I know that nobody will. I know that the government or other institutions will not look after you. That might have been the case in the past, or I don't know. Certainly was a very good time for boomers in that aspect. But I know that a corporation or a government is not going to take care of me. So that only leaves us with ourselves. And it's not groundbreaking what I'm saying. A lot of people have been saying it. And I'm just another voice in the void. Hopefully it can land on some ears and make them wake up. I think that's the point of the video. That I just simply want to people to wake up. I don't want what this society is offering me. I deserve more, and I deserve best. And so should you. I will choose to live a life that's not conventional to this society standards, because if you are really analytical of the things that are going on, you will realize that most of the things that most people they get convinced of getting, it's actually a really bad idea. I mean, for starters, why should you stick around with a company for 40 years if they're not going to offer a pension or anything like that, and you could just going to get fired out of the blue? Why should you get a house in this current market if you're going to get into massive amounts of debt? And you never know, you could get severely ill, and again, that's give a reminder of how companies operate nowadays. They could just fire you. They don't care. They'll throw you into the trash. Why should you completely trust the current government if they themselves will easily throw you under the bridge for any kind of reason? Pick up the tab. If the whole democratic system that we're living in at the moment is not working as it should, it gives you a very good um, reason to be concerned of why you don't completely put your trust into it. And again, I just want to clarify. I truly believe in the idea of democracy. I truly believe in the whole system and overall on paper as it should have been operated. But unfortunately, we're just simply letting big corporations and lobbyists infiltrate the system that we have put in place by our forefathers that believed in the pursuit of happiness. And and I think that if this is gonna keep going on, I'm not gonna put my full on trust on something that I don't believe in. I believe in the system that was installed in place in the beginning, but time and time again, we've been shown that our current lawmakers and politicians don't really have the best interest in our minds, if that makes sense. Hopefully, I'm coming out as clear as possible. And even freedom of speech is being threatened. Our freedom of speech is being threatened actively and constantly, which I think it's something that we should really be extremely protective about. We should really know our rights as citizens, because that's the last line of defense. You have to keep in mind what was set in stone. Now more than ever, it's the best time to fight for that, because not only we have the invention of the social media and the ability to spread information, it's just remarkable, it's amazing. But also there comes misinformation and the propaganda machine used by all governments to proactively misinform you of the situation. But you as a citizen, you have to take a very, again, proactive choice to know your rights as a citizen. And moving on to a more moral side, we have to know our rights as human beings. That means the right to pursue our happiness without affecting others. The right to have water, breathable air, food, the right to work for your wages, the right to speak your mind without being ostracized. I think now more than ever, even if your voice shakes and you feel uncertain about the future, you have to speak your mind. And as we still have a government that has a system that will allow us to speak our minds and make a selective choice, I think we have to push back in some of the choices our government has made. We have to push back. We have to make some necessary changes. But for us to do that, we also need to have two ways of voting. And one way is to not participate on the thing that's actively affecting us and make a second vote in the democratic way. I think that's a good first step for us to really have a chance in the future. As for myself, I will actively choose to have the best life I can possibly have. And I suppose that's all I wanted to say at the moment. Right, I almost forgot. Yes, so in the beginning of the video, I wanted it to explain why women are getting affected as well. But I suppose that could be another video in itself some other day. But I wanted to just point out that women are just getting as affected as we are as well, men. Women are completely switched out of their natural and just natural position in a society. We are led to believe that the past, or I should say the normal way of placing the woman in a unit, which is called a family, they're letting us to believe that it's unnatural, it's bad, it's weak, or um, what's the word for it? It's couldn't find the word, but it's they're letting us to believe that, or more women, they're letting them to believe that that's bad. It's bad to pursue a family. It's bad to take care of your children. It's bad to get along with the male gender. You should be combative. You should be a girl boss, or you should start your own business. You should sell your life to a corporation. You should trust a corporation. You should trust the government rather than your partner first, you know. So I suppose that I can talk about that more in the future. Depends if people really are interested in this. I wish that this doesn't fall in the abyss that comes with the endless void of information. And someone, hopefully, I can help out and indirectly by this whole discussion, and can proactively make the right choices to better themselves and choose an alternative lifestyle that helps in the long term things to turn things around. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I feel like I said everything that needed to be said, and I feel satisfied. Therefore, I will end this video. So for whoever watched me, I just want to say thank you and have a good day.